if you are a U.S. investor, as we said before, and you're investing in a controlled foreign corporation, which is a foreign corporation, there are all these GILTI rules that may affect you in a bad way. So what Israeli law says is we will allow that Israeli company to convert from a foreign corp to a U.S. corp without Israeli tax consequences, thereby mitigating and incentivizing the U.S. investment there.
We're here coming to you from the B-Seed event, bringing Israel's startup nation to New York City. And my guest now is Eli Akhavan. Eli, did I get it right?
You got it excellent and perfect, Yitzchak, as always.
Thank you so much for joining me here on the show. Is it fair, are we allowed to say that we had your wife on recently? We had the honor of having her on the show?
Yes, my wife was on it recently. She's an elder law attorney, and you had a fantastic roundtable discussion on issues relating to the elderly and how to protect themselves.
Thank you, and the audience knows you can access that by going to mybradio.com. That is the platform for every single show that we've had, including tonight's. So, Eli, tell us a little bit about what you do. You are the chair of Private Client and Wealth Preservation Group at CKR Law. What got you into this space? You seem quite passionate about what you do.
That's right. So I had graduated from law school, I think it was around 2006. I went to NYU Law. I got my advanced tax law degree. And I worked in the largest law firms in the world in the beginning. And worked with multinational corporations, businesses, some individuals. But my heart and passion was really with working with individuals and their families. And I transitioned myself slowly more into the high net worth clientele, clients that have specific business needs, specific tax planning needs, estate planning needs. And I enjoyed it very much. And on top of that, I was given the honor and privilege of teaching international taxation as a professor of law at St. John's Law School.
Nice.
But my heart was really set on cross-border families, wealthy families that needed asset protection planning, tax planning, and estate planning. And that's where I found myself at CKR Law, where we were truly an international law firm.
Now, you touched on it right now. Of course, we're here today about Israeli startup companies. And, is it okay if I ask you some tough questions?
Sure. Go for it.
Eli, I thought I could. How does the tax reform that was passed by President Trump late 2017, we call it the new 2018 tax law, I'm sure it affected U.S. investors in Israeli companies. How is that, and is that something you could tackle?
Would be glad to answer it.
Thank you.
So, as you said, the tax law, the Tax Reform Act was overarching and very broad, and it affected individuals here in the United States, and it affects foreign investors in the U.S. and it affects U.S. investors in foreign countries. To see how it affects U.S. investors in foreign businesses and foreign entities, we have to understand that the U.S. the tax code has been having a provision regarding controlled foreign corporations. That's just a fancy term for saying that we don't want U.S. taxpayers to park their money offshore and keep it offshore and not pay any taxes on it. So they decided to pass the controlled foreign corporation rules, which for certain U.S. taxpayers, they have to pay taxes currently. One of the big changes in the Tax Reform Act was to tighten up those rules, to make it even harder to park money offshore and not pay taxes. So now under what are called the GILTI provisions, not guilty as in Jewish guilt, but guilty as in GILTI, Global Intangible Low Taxable Income, they passed laws that make it much harder to keep the money offshore and not to pay taxes. So when you are an American investor in an Israeli company, it is highly recommended to touch base and consult a US-based tax attorney to understand how to mitigate those new laws and the consequences of the new laws to really reduce the current tax burden that U.S. taxpayers may have.
Now, before I ask you for contact information, just another question, if I may.
Sure.
What tax laws in Israel are there, and now I'm going to go the other way, that incentivize U.S. and foreign investments from abroad?
Great question to get
Okay,
both
thank you.
sides of the
Thank you, right,
picture.
sure.
What happens is, and I do have to say that
Okay.
I'm not an Israeli tax attorney or an Israeli tax advisor, but we have become aware and are aware of certain Israeli tax laws. Listen, we know Israel is startup nation. That's what they're known as.
right.
It's a famous book out there.
right.
But one of the big things that they try to incentivize foreign investment is if you are a foreign investor investing in a venture capital fund or a private equity fund in Israel, Israeli tax laws allow you to have certain capital gains exemptions and certain income exemptions. And of course, you need to make sure that the venture capital fund and the private equity fund qualify under Israeli tax laws. But that's something to make sure to look at. And second, Israeli tax law allows for something called a corporate inversion, which is again a fancy term.
Right.
I'll explain it in a simple way.
Sure.
If you are a U.S. investor, as we said before, and you're
Right.
investing in a controlled foreign corporation, which is a foreign corporation, there are all these GILTI rules that may affect you in a bad way. So what Israeli law says is we will allow that Israeli company to convert from a foreign corp to a U.S. corp
Fascinating.
without Israeli tax consequences, thereby mitigating and incentivizing the U.S. investment there.
You know what's so clear to me is that anyone approaching this area really needs a firm like CKR Law. They can't even dream about tackling this without
Competent
professionals.
counsel is absolutely recommended.
So how in the world can they get in touch with you?
I'm available by phone. You can call our main line at 212-259-7300 and ask for Eli Akhavan. Again, 212-259-7300.
And the website.
And the website, of course, which will have my email address, contact information, and some background on me.
And the website is?
www.ckrlaw.com.
That's simple.
That's it.
Eli, thank you for joining me here on 77 WABC.
Yes, Chuck, always a pleasure.
I love the honor of interviewing C-level executives and sharing their great advice and perspective on Mind Your Business. I'd love to get your feedback. Post it in the comments below and subscribe. You'll never miss an edition of Mind Your Business.